The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Welcome to New Hampshire Cares. I am really happy to have my next guest here, someone that I work really closely with, really. She is from the New Hampshire Children's Trust, and her name is Karen Bernard Kriegel. And it's really a joy to have you here. I know we have been in many meetings together. I actually remember the first time that we met around the Attorney General office table. Mm-hmm. We were in the task force together, and we kind of traded business cards. And I love the work certainly of your organization, and again, thanks for coming in and sharing a little bit with us.
Yes, my pleasure.
So, give us a little bit of a sense, because I think a lot of people aren't necessarily familiar with a lot of the nonprofits in New Hampshire, especially when they are more statewide like yours.
Right.
So tell us about the New Hampshire Children's Trust.
Sure. So we have been around for 29 years, and our mission is to lead the drive to eliminate child abuse and neglect, mm-hmm. because we believe that every child deserves to have a great childhood. Mm-hmm. So when you're an adult and you're looking back and somebody says, "How was your childhood?" we would love for people to say, "You know what? I had a great childhood. Good. I was loved and cared for and kept safe, and life was good," and we think all children deserve that.
Absolutely. Safe and sound, right? That's the reason that we do the work that we do, making sure children are safe and sound. So how long have you been with that organization?
So I've been there for 6 years,
okay.
And I started out working with relatively functional families in recreation. So that's where I started, at health clubs and all kinds of rec programs and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And then the recession hit, and I ended up working for Odyssey House in the residential treatment program for adolescents.
Oh, wow.
And that was a huge shocker to me, mm-hmm. and realizing that these children did not come from functioning families, mm-hmm.
most of them.
Mm-hmm. And so it inspired me to go get a master's degree in family studies, and I decided to spend my life working to strengthen families who were struggling so that kids could really have the opportunities that they deserved.
Wow. Well, it's so interesting. So a lot of your, and I think that's probably how life is, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of your experiences lead you through a path as to kind of where you've landed today. You were experienced children who were at risk and didn't have really the greatest mm-hmm. of childhoods, and so you said, what can I do about that? What can I do about that? And of course, the New Hampshire Children's Trust was in existence at that time. How many years has the trust been in existence?
So next year will be our 30th anniversary.
Wow, okay.
So the Children's Trust Funds around the country was a national movement in the 80s. So Dr. Ray Helfer, he said, there's land trusts in every state, why don't we have children's trusts? And so the federal government challenged the states to raise money. Took New Hampshire 10 years. But
live
in
free or die.
1996, they actually had enough money to then establish the Children's Trust Fund, and it was established at the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation.
Okay.
And they hired their first staff person. So in the beginning, because they had so few dollars, they would give a few dollars out to prevention programs to help them with a new initiative. Mm-hmm. And in 2004, we became the Prevent Child Abuse America chapter in the state. So that's when we really started doing programming. Mm-hmm. And so now we're pretty busy, and with our $500,000 budget, doing really a lot of great things.
Sure. So your staff has grown in 30 years
yes.
to really a very, and I think most organizations start as kind of that grassroots mm-hmm. level, and then build that capacity up to be able to really do the work well, and to get sophisticated, because mm-hmm. it really should be. I mean, especially relating to children and their well-being. So You started with probably very few staff 30 years ago, and now how many staff people do you have at the trust?
So I have 8 people, but
Okay.
most of them are part-time. So the thing is, we need expertise in communications and expertise in training and expertise in fundraising. And so in order to have a little bit of everything, I have a lot of part-time staff people doing really full-time work.
Yeah, right.
They're fantastic. I'm really lucky.
Yeah, and it's like you said, a lot of people think of nonprofits and they forget the business side of it. They think of the service delivery pieces,
Right.
and they don't necessarily realize that we need communications and we need marketing and we need all those
Absolutely.
proficiencies, and not everyone that's in the social work piece really has those skill sets, and that obviously the trust has identified that and gotten smart
Right.
about being able to
So when I
do
first
that.
came in, we did not have a bookkeeper or an accountant. So that was my first priority.
Wow. Right.
So yes, we needed to make sure that that we were able to take our small resources and be the most efficient with them. And I'm happy to say that we've been able to be in the black for the last 5 years and have a 6-month reserve.
Oh
that
my God. High
allows
five
us-
on that, right?
Thank you.
From one nonprofit
Yes.
to another. Know that that's important, right?
Right. So now we're able to do some risk taking. So investigating some new evidence-informed programs, or reaching out to new communities, or different things like that, where before it was really making sure that we could maintain what we were currently doing with no risk.
Right, absolutely. Well, and I'm going to, I think what I would like to do, because I know you have so many great initiatives and we have some really fabulous props and to show. And I think I'm going to put that to the other side of this interview and spend a little time on the organization, and then we'll spend more time on the program there. So so how, I know how you started your funding, because certainly you explained that. So how are you currently funded? If you've got this beautiful pie chart, what are some of those slices like for your organization?
So every state gets money from the federal government. It's called community-based child abuse prevention, and the minimum a state can get is $200,000, and we
Okay.
get $200,000 because
Okay.
we're a small state, and the rest of it is from the community. So we don't get any state dollars or town dollars. So we have fundraisers. We do requests of individuals and corporations and organizations. We have great partnerships with the Kappa Delta sororities at UNH and Dartmouth. They do fundraising for us. They're connected to Prevent Child Abuse America. So actually Sigma, Delta Tau, and Kappa Delta and the General Federation of Women's Clubs are all have adopted child abuse prevention as their charity. And so they work with chapters all around the country. So we're really fortunate to benefit from
Wow,
those
that's great.
relationships.
That's great.
So yeah, and of course we apply for funding, and we're grateful to, the Charitable Foundation for their ongoing support,
Sure.
and the other large foundations and small foundations that kick in, $1,000, $2,000, $5,000, whatever they can.
Right,
So
it
it's been
all
great.
it all adds up
It
and
does.
allows you to function an organization that should really no longer be grassroots. And we were talking with another nonprofit at another time, and I was using that analogy of going upstream. When you talk about prevention, and again, child abuse prevention certainly is near and dear to my heart
Right.
because of the work that we do. You can be at the shore, obviously providing
Plucking the
treatments,
kids from the
right,
river, right.
Isn't that social work 101?
Yeah.
Someone said it's like the analogy they use,
Right.
but if you go upstream, you'll really start to identify why are those kids landing in the water in the first place.
Exactly.
And I love that analogy because it really does help you visualize the importance of prevention. And we have so many social issues out there now, even with the heroin epidemic,
Right.
and of course, all unbelievably worthy initiatives that certainly need an enormous amount of attention. But we can't lose sight on some of these other initiatives like prevention and child abuse prevention, because some of that may actually mitigate some of the social issues that we have.
Absolutely.
You know?
So I want to talk just for a second about the
Sure.
heroin epidemic.
Sure.
So our newest staff, Marissa, just wrote an article that has been picked up on how, as a community, we need to be looking at the children that are in these homes when their parents are using drugs.
Absolutely.
And overdosing. And so we really feel like it's all of our responsibility, the neighbors, the family members, the larger community, the schools, the medical providers, to be keeping an eye on those children, and then to be creating environments in which they still can have healthy developments and loving, nurturing environments in which to grow. So we're very concerned that the heroin epidemic is going to have a negative impact in the
Well-being
child's
of
well-being.
kids.
Right.
Absolutely.
So on the other side of that, if you have a traumatic experience in your childhood, the more traumatic experiences you have, like child abuse and neglect, or like an abandonment of a parent, or an incarceration of a parent, or mental health or substance abuse, the more likely you are to have social emotional problems and then engage in risky behaviors and then get chronic disease. So we need to break that whole
It's a public
cycle.
health issue.
It is a
Yeah,
public health issue.
It becomes a public health
Absolutely.
issue, and when we're all, it's all very interconnected and dovetails a great deal.
Right.
So to that point, there's so much work to be done. I mean, obviously, and another quote that I like, and of course everybody's probably tired of my quotes, but how do you eat an elephant is one bite at a time is the answer. And so for the work that you do and being so passionate about prevention work, child abuse prevention work, if you were to have a money tree in your backyard, and we have about 2 minutes left, but if you were to have a money tree in your backyard, where would Karen make investments in the work that you do? What are some of the
Absolutely.
needs that you really see that, gosh, if money were no object?
All right, so if I had a money tree,
You got excited when I said
I
that,
did,
too.
yes. Well, I got big plans.
Right,
for the money.
right.
Come on, send it
That's
in.
what I figured.
So if I had a money tree, it would be to invest in a public health person who would help us with better data collection and reporting, would help us with better evaluation, would make sure that we were in this social ecological domain so that we had strategies for individuals, for families, for communities, and for society. But if I had a money forest,
Right. Oh, I like that. A money
I would
forest.
pass the money through to direct service providers, and the most effective programs that we know about are home visiting, which is individualized family support.
Sure.
So it's going to the home and saying to a family, I'm here for you. How can I be supportive to help you have a healthy, functioning family, a loving, nurturing environment for that child? How can we help you be satisfied in your family life and help your child reach their full potential? So I would love to have that money forest so that we could offer home visiting to every child, starting prenatally at every visit through their 3rd birthday in their pediatric well child visits. If they didn't accept home visiting, we can try again. Now they're crawling, are you interested in home visiting? Now that they're saying no, are you interested in home visiting? Now that
Right.
they're starting to play,
Right.
are you interested in home visiting? So giving parents the opportunity to accept services when they need them, not requiring them to have it when they're prenatally if they're not interested, and miss out if they
Right.
if they didn't accept it at that time, or required to have so many risk factors.
Right.
So even for me, when I came home with the baby, I said, why did they let me out of the hospital? I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
And I had a master's in family studies.
Right.
So
We do a little more training when you adopt a pet, maybe.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
right.
And here, these are children. These are our children.
Right.
Well, again, I'm so glad that you're here, and we have a lot more to talk about, certainly on the other side with, and again, I can't wait to get to some of the purple props that we have. But
Great.
you stay tuned in to New Hampshire Cares, and we'll be back with Karen in just a moment.
Here we come. Pick you up. Wow. That's interesting. My child is doing this and it's driving me crazy. Is this normal or what? Right in.
I was like, I'm not sure that I'm one of those people that needed a resource center. But then someone brought it up to me again and said, well, you know, it's just a group of moms just like you. And that was the selling point. I was like, oh, so wait a second. It's people my age. It's people with kids. It's
I've been working with children and families for 25 years now. It's giving some support to help them to figure out what it is that they want to do, because Tori would do something different than Molly or Jen or you or anybody else. It's about discovering what works in your own family.
Welcome back to New Hampshire Cares. Again, my guest, Karen, is here from the New Hampshire Children's Trust. Great conversation earlier about the organization, and as you can tell, very passionate about the work that you do. You know, it doesn't look like you've been there 6 years. It looks like you've been there maybe 6 days, you know, as far as the fact that you're just so enthusiastic about it. But, and you know, that you can sense that, and I'm sure, you know, that's why you've had such a great deal of success in the years that you've been there. So really, congratulations
Thank
on that.
you.
It's important work, and I appreciate it. So I wanted to get to, obviously, you know, when we talk about prevention, there are a lot of child abuse prevention campaigns, obviously nationally, internationally, and locally here in New Hampshire. So give us a sense of really that service delivery that you provide, both in being a clearinghouse and then some things that are really well branded through the work, through the trust.
Yeah. So there are so many people that come in contact with children. So whether you're a child care worker, a teacher, a medical provider, a counselor, a neighbor, a religious educator, we want you to be able to provide support to families. And so some of the things we do is bring strategies, evidence-based education programs and different strategies that have been shown to be effective to the state. One of them is called Strengthening Families. And so we know that in families where there are 5 protective factors that have been identified that are robust in their lives, they're less likely to be child abuse and neglect.
So what are the 5?
So parental resilience, and I have a little.
Oh, you do?
I do.
Oh, perfect.
This is in.
And people can get this information from your
They
website,
can,
right?
yes.
Okay.
And we're happy to mail things to people too if they want to hang them up.
Okay.
So this is in parent language, so it's just a checklist.
Okay.
So it says, I make sure we have access to basic needs, which is concrete supports.
Yeah.
Parental resilience is, I continue to have courage during stress and after a crisis. Social connections, I value people who know me from friendships and have at least one person who supports my parenting. Knowledge of parenting and child development, I assure my child the freedom to grow and thrive when I remain curious and responsive to his or her needs. And social and emotional development, my child feels loved, has a sense of belonging, and the ability to get along with others. So some of the things that we hand out to programs are these magnets. It's,
I noticed
says,
you have a pen.
you are loved.
Yeah.
Yes, and we want both the parents and the children to know that they're loved and that being part of a family should be really rewarding and nurturing and supportive. And then we have this 20 ways to say I love you, which has been really well received. I was at a conference last week and somebody asked for enough for their whole SAU to give these out. So I said, sure, call us up and let us know how many you want, and we'll send them out to you so that you can share them with the families.
I love that,
are in
and
your
you know,
school.
I don't have my glasses on, but I could read a few from here, and you know, it's you know what I love about that is it's like when you go to these leadership seminars, and you know, our impression of what a leader is, we tend to put into, you know, it's the president or it's a mayor or it's a senator. You know, it's obviously those, it's title based, not action based.
Right.
And so we were trying to teach kids that, you know, being a leader could be as simple as holding a door for someone.
Right.
You know, and so what I guess what I'm trying to kind of relate is that, the ways to say I love you. Most of us think that there are these really grandiose ways to show love.
Right.
And I read the first one is, or one of them was welcoming their friends.
Right.
I love that. That's really awesome. That's really terrific.
Right, you're all there together as
Yes,
a
of
family, and so
course.
you should be supportive of each other. It'd be
Yeah,
great.
absolutely. I like that a lot. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. That would be a good billboard.
It would be great.
Wouldn't that be good?
Yes.
Yeah, you need a billboard. So there's another thing
Okay,
we need for
exactly.
that forest. We need another thing
Exactly.
for that forest.
Yeah.
So tell us about the other campaigns that you have.
So we talked about, we promote home visiting, so we do provide training and support to professionals who are engaged in home visiting. And we work with the hospitals in St. Joe's and Southern New Hampshire, both implemented the Period of Purple Crying. So hopefully if you've had a baby, you got a DVD or an app with a booklet
Okay.
and a cute little purple hat that
I
our
love-
volunteers make for us to remind
Here,
you.
let me see that. I love it.
Yes. So every baby goes through a period of crying, and it increases between 2 weeks and 5 months of age. And sometimes it's called colic, which just means your baby cries a lot.
Yes.
And I don't know if you ever had a crying baby,
Oh.
but it certainly can get on your nerves.
Yeah, my first child, Courtney, she did have colic, and it's challenging.
It is.
It's challenging.
So we want all parents to have a plan. So if you can call somebody, or you can count to 10, or you can go outside and scream, or whatever you can do,
Right.
put your baby in a safe place. And sometimes just separating from the baby won't be feeling how stressed you are
Right.
and might be able to calm down. There's other soothing techniques on these diaper bag tags that we give out. So whoever's caring for your baby, they can look this for a little cheat sheet of how to soothe a baby. And there's also a spot where the parent can write their phone number, so that if the grandparent or aunt or uncle or babysitter is having trouble, they can get in touch with the parent right away. So it's right
Wow.
attached to the diaper bag tag,
Wow,
to the
that's-
diaper bag.
Now, and again, what a great campaign. I love, again, some of the things that just, they're appropriately done to help remind people of that. Do you have any stories that you know of, have you ever gotten a phone call of someone that said, that diaper tag made all the difference, or I, recognized that I was just a little overstressed, or there must be countless, again, I say stories, but countless, really, when you talk about evidence and outcomes of a successful campaign, you must have that identified.
The most comments we get are from grandparents who are just thrilled that that their children who are having babies are getting this education, because they kind of felt all alone out there when their baby
Sure.
started crying, and now to know that that in addition to swaddling and feeding and bathing and car seats, we're also learning about soothing infant crying. The grandparents are just thrilled that that education is out there for every parent.
Right, absolutely. Well, and my oldest is, I'm going back 24 years, and although you knew, the stresses and postpartum depression and all of that, they educated you the best they could in the
Right.
hospitals. There weren't then these extra tips. So, certainly there's been some progression
Right.
in the education, and that's just fantastic. And do all the hospitals participate in this?
So in New Hampshire, we have 19 birthing hospitals, and there
Okay.
is one left that we're trying to get to implement the
come
program.
on, we need that one
Right,
left.
so it's in Plymouth, if anybody knows anybody in Plymouth.
All right.
But all the other hospitals, like I said, the two here in Nashua, they've been on board for a couple of years. I think we started this in 2012, and the great news is that the incidence of child abuse and neglect of children under age 3 went down by 13%. I mean, by 18%.
Wow.
So
Wow,
we think the Period of Purple Crying, home visiting, and strengthening families has really added to families being
Really reducing
prepared
that.
and reducing.
Right.
So we're hoping that that will continue to go down.
And knowing to be conscientious and having some tips that are handy on, what to do, and
Right, and educating
Sure.
the spouses, the boyfriends, the grandparents,
Yeah.
the babysitters, anybody that's caring for your child.
Right.
So your child is safe no matter who the caregiver is.
Absolutely. This is terrific. Now, who pays for all? I mean, these are done by volunteers.
They
Of course,
are.
I love these little hats. So, as far as the materials and whatnot, that's what the grant does. Is that what the grant predominantly pays for from the feds, or is that, I know you're, supported through the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation.
Right. So mainly our grant funding goes to support our public education and our trainings. So we are, I think, 3 people short of training 1,000 people in strengthening families online, which is a free course. And we've probably trained several hundred more face-to-face. And these are people in any discipline that works with children or families. And the period of Purple Crying, we provided all the materials for the first year, and then we worked with each hospital on a sustainability plan.
Okay.
So some hospital ladies auxiliary groups, or the
Okay.
gift shops, or they just put it in their budget to maintain
I
this
see.
program. So
You give them the capacity to start it
Right.
and see the benefits of that, but then you also work with them to try to figure out how that could be sustaining, so that you can peel back and maybe help, another
next
hospital, or
hospital, correct.
the next group, and, link them up with someone who can raise some funds as, and make this the beneficiary, really, of that good work. Oh, that's terrific.
So some of the community education that we do is on social media. So we have Facebook and Twitter, Pinterest, and YouTube.
Wow.
And so that's what
Socially connected.
We are. And so no matter what your style is, you can find us somewhere. And if you would like to call us, we do have a phone number. So
Oh,
it's
good.
224-1279. But some
Perfect.
people don't like social media and they'd rather have a conversation, and I'd love to talk to them
Right.
about any questions that they have.
Oh, that's great. Well, I hope that people reach out and get involved, and it's a really great organization. And with a couple of minutes left, I want to congratulate you on an award
Thank
that you
you.
received. I know we were together at a leadership summit in Concord, and you received something from the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation, which is, talk about a great establishment that we have here in New Hampshire. I mean, I can't say enough about that, organization and how they support nonprofits in New Hampshire. But congratulations on
Thank
your award.
you.
Maybe tell us a little bit about why you got that. I'm a little envious. That's a good one. That's a real good
Yes.
one.
So we're very honored to receive that award, and
bet.
it was a long haul. So one of the things that's required is to have a really healthy board, and we are so fortunate to have 17 passionate, skilled ambassadors who help guide the organization. So we're really lucky to have that. Then we were able to put some money aside, as I said, for emergencies. So for example, if the federal government decided not to have that grant anymore, we would be able to stay open for 6 months as we figured out what to do about that. And then our staff, just delivering such high quality services. We get a lot of evaluations that talk about people have increased their knowledge, people are planning to change their behavior. We do surveys 6 months later to ask them, what did you change?
Wow.
And so
Seeing
having the
habits change,
data
yeah.
about people changing their practice. So I just have this great team, and I felt like this was the right time for us to apply, and Charitable Foundation agreed with us. So we were happy about that.
Yeah, that's really terrific. Well, and it takes a lot of work to be able to kind of peel that onion that way, to make sure that there are all these other pieces in place that make it a healthy organization. Sometimes we forget that because we're operating in crisis often as a nonprofit, because there's so much work to be done that we tend to forget how we have to stay healthy organizationally so that we can continue the work well into the years. So yeah, I congratulate you.
Thank
Boy,
you.
having a reserve is not easy
No.
in this funding climate. So I applaud you for that. And again, a great board. That it really takes a great board. But it's been really terrific having you on and,
Well, it's
and
been my
sharing
pleasure.
all these
Thank
great
you.
things. And again, we're going to keep a watch on what you're up to and what you're doing. So thank you so much for coming
Great.
on to
And
New Hampshire
we'll
Cares.
be hanging out in April at Child Abuse Prevention Month. And
That's
hopefully
right.
all of our viewers will join us.
That's right. Maybe I'll go with a camera on,
There you go.
over there just to kind of highlight it. But thank you so much for watching, and make sure you tune in next time to New Hampshire Cares. Have a great day.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.